Okay, now I should be live again, and I'm on a stronger internet connection. So I'm just going to delete the video that I posted before. Hi again, here I am again. So you should be able to see me again. Now, I'm so sorry about that, what happened before. I think that the line was not strong enough, but now it should be better. Yeah, so I hope you will connect again. Okay, here I am. Let me check. Yes, this is the new one. Should be the new one. Oh, why so complicated sometimes? Yes, here I am. Okay, so let's start again. Hello, if you're watching at the live again, or if you're watching at the live after, there had some problems in the internet. Therefore, I had to start everything again. So today is about children 7+. But as I said before, there were some troubles on, there were some children that were younger in the videos that you've seen, okay? Some kids were 5 to 7, and therefore I decided to write also 5 to 7. But what we're talking about today is really how to bring body music and then the musical instruments to children that are 7+. Okay, so I was saying that the background of your students that are older than 6, so 7, 8, etc., the musical background is fundamental for you you really need to understand where they're coming from and what they have done before. So if you have students that have been studying with you since they were little children, or babies even better, then you're going to be quite, you know them very well, and therefore you can propose the activities to them without problems. But if you are working with students that you don't know, pretending, for example, that you're working in a school, you go as an external teacher into a school and they give you 15, 20, 25 children, age 6, age 7, you've never seen them before, well, not all of them are going to have the same musical level, musical aptitude development, okay? They might be not in coordination, they might not be able to sing and coordinate their movements yet. So there is always perhaps the need to do some of those activities that I've shared with you in the previous 2 days of a mini guide, okay? So because kids are older, that doesn't mean that we jump straight into body percussion or into musical instruments. We can do it, of course, but we might have half of a group that cannot follow our proposal. So it's always better to start with some activities that, help the children to move their whole body without producing any sounds. For example, playing with parachutes, going in circles, activities where they are more free to experiment music with their whole body. So you can do that for the first 10, 15 minutes of a sessions, and then you go maybe and try with some body music, very simple body music activities. And then through the weeks, of course, you can create more complicated exercises where the body percussion is much more complicated. Okay, so talking about body percussion, since this is the theme and the topic today, the most important things to know is that there are two aspects that we always have to take in consideration. The first one is that we need to be able to create independence between voice and movement. Okay, so that is one of the things that children might need to do little by little. And you reach that by starting with a complete adherence of voice and body percussion. So saying, for example, a song like Si Mama Ka, okay? You have Si Mama Ka, Ruka, 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 Si Mama Ka. So when you sing Si Ma, the song starts on the upbeat, yeah? Si Mama Ka. So with children that are very young, you wouldn't ask them to do Si Ma or Si Ma on the desks or on the legs. That C, which is on the upbeat, is very complicated for them to sing. So it's always better to try to start by clapping on the beat and keep doing movements that are mostly on the stronger pulses, on the stronger beats of the songs. Okay, so si ma ka, si ma ka, or si ma ka, si ma ka. Okay, so this thing of a coordination between voice and body. It's a webinar that you can subscribe for, okay? It's going to be free, and it's going to be also recorded and available for 24 hours after the webinar. So you can have a look, you can watch it, but I hope that you will be able to join me so you can also ask me questions live, okay? So I was saying, we're going to have this thing that we need to take in consideration. And the second thing that we have to take in consideration is that body percussion develops on different plans of a biomechanic. Okay, so biomechanics is a discipline that explains us how the body works, how are the movements connected together, okay? And we divide our body into 3 different plans. One is the sagittal plane, which is divided left and right. One is the frontal plane, which is divided front and back of our body. And then the horizontal plane, which divides our body from top to lower part of the body. So when we work with children of this age, we need to be very careful on how we combine these different planes of the biomechanic, okay? Especially when we introduce left and right. So when we start working on laterality, there is where we are starting having potential troubles, okay? So these are the 2 most important elements that we have to take in consideration when we create a body percussion activity. So the activities that you have observed in the videos were very simple. They were involving always only the top part of the body and the lower part of the body, so that means the horizontal plane, and sometimes they were mixed with a frontal plane, okay? So I can move my feet when I also clap my hand. So I combine the top part of the body and the lower part of the body with movement going forward or clapping forward instead of backwards, for example. So having said that, the point is that, what is the point when we bring children from body music to melodical instruments, which is amazing to do, and I have been doing it also using sound painting, which is a particular, spectacular sign language for artists and to perform live with different groups of people, okay? So I've been studying that in Paris with Walter Thompson, which is the creator of sound painting, and then I've applied it in different contexts to my classes, working with deaf children, autistic kids, but also, you know, let's say in children in the typical development. So it's been very, very interesting to see how you can combine the body percussion and then create live performance with the kids by using sound painting and conducting the group easily. So having said that, the idea is that we don't use musical notation at this point here at Music Tree. When kids are older than 7, 8, and they do one-to-one classes, so there is just one teacher for one student, then yes, we teach with musical notation. But we still have a very important part of a session which is dedicated only to creativity, expression, improvisation, and that comes without musical notation. So we work only by ear, basically, okay? What does that mean? It means that if I want to teach a specific song to my students, okay, and I want them to be able to play it either on the ukulele or on the piano or on the xylophones, okay, or on the recorder, whatever, and I'm working without musical notation, these students really need to know perfectly the melody that they are going to play, because that is the only way in which they can recall in their audiation, which is what Gordon defines as our musical thinking, let's say that, they need to be able to listen to their audiation, to what they have in their brains, in their minds, and transpose that onto the instruments without thinking do, re, mi, do, do, okay? Or without reading it on a book, which is, on my point of view, even less musical, because at that point children are using their eyes and they're not using their audiation, okay, or of their ears. So the idea is that they need to learn these melodies, and these melodies of course need to be short, because we're talking about kids that are young. For example, the song Hot Cross Buns is a perfect example. So in the song Hot Cross Buns, there are 3 notes, but the children don't know that there are only 3 notes. But they have to learn the melody. Pam, 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 pam. Okay, so I have to create a series of activities, a series of games, musical games, that are bringing the students to learn this melody without getting bored. Okay, because otherwise, I can always teach a song like this. Okay, I'm singing and you repeat. Pam, pam, pam. Pam, pam, pam. Pam, 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 pam. So, if I do this, first of all, it's not fun. There's no fun in this. Second of all, by dividing the melody in different pieces, children don't have the continuity of a song in their mind until a very late stage of this type of call and response learning, okay? So I want the kids to learn the whole melody at once. I want them to feel the flow. I want them to understand what comes after the other part. I want them to be able to predict what is coming after in this song, okay? So I want them to listen to all. Pam, 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 for Hot Cross Buns. This is the song. But for the video that you've seen, pam, 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 ba-dum, 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 that's much longer, right? To sing, to memorize. So I need to create activities that are fun, that are engaging, and that where the children are listening to the whole piece for the whole time when they're playing. Basically, they are playing a game, a music game, and they're not even realizing that they are learning the song. This is how it works here at Music Tree. There is no call and response. There is no let's read the notes. There is no relying on lyrics to learn music. Okay? So we don't sing Hot Cross Buns. We sing that perhaps just at the end, exactly like we've done with Just Like a Kite. Just Like a Kite comes really at the end of it, okay? So, all of this conversation to explain to you that if children know very well what they have to play, so they know it in their audiation, then they're going to be able to find out the notes on the instruments or predict where they have to play, when they have to play, okay? So, in the video, you've seen a series of different games, starting from the hoops, and I propose to you 2 different ways of playing with the hoops. One is when the hoops are straight, and that was yesterday. Today we had children jumping on different directions in the hoops, and here again, in that situation, we're working on different types of cognitive skills, okay? So when the children are a bit older, give them a little bit like a more complicated challenge to do, yeah? To have to face. That's why yesterday they were just jumping straight and today they were jumping, going in different directions. Then if they make a different direction and they are not remembering it, or if each child creates their own one, for me it's totally fine. That's amazing. They are even making their own game up, right? Which is super cool. They're going to become great music teachers. Okay, then you add the instruments, and then you can go and start working on body percussion. So in the first example, you had a group of children that are working towards each other in 2 lines, okay? And then they're just tapping the hands when it's the right moment to do it, according to the song. And then I didn't even have to explain when they had to do it. I just show it to them once and they were like, okay, I got it. Then they might not be able to coordinate yet, but through the repetition, they will. Okay, so again, they are starting developing not starting developing their coordination. They are coordinating already, but some of them might not be so accurate as well. Okay. So you really need to be, keep repeating and ask them to perhaps go slower, or maybe you need to do it with one student that have a particular difficulty because there can be some ADHD, there can be some dyslexia that is also connected to the body and the ability to coordinate and to recognize what is right and left and up and down. So when you have students with this type of problems, then of course you need to kind of slow down, and maybe you are going to work with them directly, and then you're going to ask them to work again with the rest of the group. So there is an amazing way with body percussion to include children that have some difficulties and without making them feel completely isolated from the group. After this type of exercise, I showed you how they were playing the song on the xylophone. In that case, I just started naming the notes that they were playing on the xylophone, but there was nothing to read in front of them. So they were still trying to go by memory and by heart and by ear. And then there was a group of 2 girls. Usually that group has 6 girls, but that day there were just 2 of them. And it's good to see anyway what type of work you can do when you have smaller groups, or when you're teaching perhaps 2-to-1 piano classes. Okay, you have just 2 students that are coming to your house to do piano classes. Well, you can still use body percussion in those activities, in preparation to play the piece. So the way in which I did it was by teaching them a sequence to learn that was underlying the main melody, and we used some syllables. Those syllables were taken from Barbatuques, which is a very famous group in Brazil. They do body percussion mainly, but you can also use whatever syllables you want. You can use ta, ke, ti, padam, padam, padam. Actually it was tam, 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 ta, ke, ti. Dun, 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 dum, paro, whatever. You can use whatever syllable you want, so stick to them, okay? If you use ta, keep using ta. And then I played that song with the ukulele when they were doing the sequence, and then we learned how to do it when I was singing the lyrics on top of it. And then eventually they played the xylophones and the piano. I don't have a video of them playing on the piano, but they did an amazing job again. And what I like to do is also to create different ensembles. So if I have 6 children, 2 are on the piano, 2 are on the xylophones, and 2 are jumping on the hoops or doing body percussion. Okay, and then they all swap. So we can repeat the song many times, and each of them gets to try a different way of enjoying that specific song. Okay, I think I finished for today. This was the topic of today, and I wanted to make very clear that body percussion is an amazing way to teach an instrument, and that the work through the body is what really makes a difference in the development of musical skills of children. It's not about reading the notes, it's not about solfa, but it's really about listening, okay? Then you can do solfa, then you can add lyrics. But if they don't have that understanding of music, if they cannot make a sense of what they are hearing in their brain, then it's just about reading symbols without any type of meaning. And I'll give you an example about this. So my mom is a pianist, and my dad plays many instruments, not professionally, but I had these 2 types of learning in my house, informal learning. Until I was 6, I heard so much music in my house, and I could dance around, I could draw when I was listening, I could sing and repeat, okay? I never had a formal instruction until I was 6. So at that point, I had perfect pitch, which is something that, some people say that is good, some people say that is not good. I still have to make up my own decision, because for me, perfect pitch has been very good in some situations, but not as good in some others. Anyway, I developed sense of rhythm, I developed perfect pitch, and I could sing and coordinate the movements of my body. And I was about 5. At that point, my mom decided but I was ready for the musical stave, okay? She did exactly what Gordon suggested. Develop the preparatory audiation is called, okay? So develop my internal understanding of music and my ability to connect my voice with my movements. And then put names on what I was already able to sing or dance on, okay? This is exactly what we do with a language, by the way. First, we learn how to speak, and then we learn how to read and write. We never do the opposite, right? So we shouldn't do the opposite with music either. But at that point, I had also solfa classes, because in Italy, that was 31 years ago. In Italy, 31 years ago, so in 1991, the idea was that you were doing 1 or 2 hours of piano classes a week. That was intense. And minimum 2 hours of solfa classes per week. And I was 6. So I was with this group of older kids, and I was doing my solfa lessons, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, mi, fa, mi, with my hands, right? Doing all the movements, ba, 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 doing all nice. And I remember my teacher telling me, okay, now in this piece we're going to move from a crochet with a dot to a quaver with a dot. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I couldn't tell, of course, I couldn't say what you're talking about, because I was 6 and he was like an old styled music teacher. So I was like, sure. You just, in my mind, I was like, you just start and then I'm going to copy. But I didn't have any idea of what he was talking about. And I'm sure that nowadays there are still teachers that are saying, okay, these are 2 crochets and this is a quaver. And, 2 quavers make 1 crochet. And the students are like, no meaning to that. Until children are able to understand fractions, so I guess they are minimum 8 or 9, there's no point about talking about these things, because otherwise in school they would do the fractions much earlier, right? But if they don't do them, there is a reason. So why, as music teachers, we keep thinking that we have to put there some symbols to give meaning to music? Meaning comes through our body, meaning comes through our brain, not through our reading, okay? Sorry, I've been a bit drastic in this topic today, but I really think that, we can do music in a much easier way without having to stress our students or to have them maybe quite confused. Okay, let's see if any of you has some questions for me today. I know there is a comment. Let me see. One comment. It's Berna again. Hi, Berna. Nice to see you. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? These are the topics that we're going to talk about during the weekend, of course. Friday, it's a special day because it's the workshop with Pedro Consorci, and he's going to talk about nonviolent communication for circle music. So he's going to talk about all the conflicts and, he's going to give us basically some suggestions and ideas on how we can use nonviolent communication to deal with conflicts that can arise between the children or between us and the children or within ourselves as teachers. For example, now if you are a teacher that teaches with solfa and you're listening to me, perhaps you can have a conflict with me in this moment, right? Or you can have a conflict within yourself saying like, oh, perhaps it's time for me to stop teaching with solfa. How am I going to do that? How am I going to survive this big thing that I have in my mind now. Okay, so nonviolent communication is a very, very good way to kind of start talking about this topic also in music education. Because music teachers are most of the time are a little bit lonely, working, you know, in the other school, and they are seen as aliens sometimes. So yeah, it would be nice, you know, to have a way in which we can learn how to communicate better to each other and explain better. And I will be there, and I will bring some examples of what happened to me and what have I done in those situations that changed, that was different from how I would have responded if I didn't have those strategies that I've learned from Pedro. So that's going to be on Friday, and no, Saturday morning. So tomorrow there is a break. And then Saturday, the webinar at 10 a.m. UK time. Again, it will be recorded, so you can sign up. And then if you cannot participate, you're going to have a recording. But it's going to be valid only for 24 hours. And also, it's nicer if you can be there and ask questions to Pedro, okay? And then the day after is body music for children, and we're going to talk about how to create body percussion activities following all the steps of coordination. And we're going to learn a song that is called Little Music Game, and we're going to see how to apply that activity from children that are 4 to 5 up to adults. So I'm very looking forward to these two webinars, and I hope to meet some of you live, and I will be able to speak with some of you, okay? So thank you very much for participating into this first part of Music Tree Mini Guide, and I'll see you at the webinars, okay? And don't miss out also next week of live sessions. Next week is going to be very cool, because I'm going to interview different people that have been studying with me and that have applied music tree approach into their sessions. And they're going to tell us how they have done it in their unique way. And this is what I like, that whenever I teach something to people, then my idea is that you take it and you change it and you modify it and you customize it according to your needs. So we're gonna have a music therapist, a speech therapist, a drum circle facilitator, a teacher in school, and then a music teacher. Oh yes, we're gonna have also one music teacher. Okay, so guys, I hope to see you this weekend, and otherwise next week. Bye bye. Thank you so much.